All right. Hey, guys. It's David Holder with Raised Hunting, and I'm joined today by Warren and Easton. And I apologize not for them today. I apologize for them. I'll start with that. But I'm going to apologize because, yes, my head is stuffed up, so I'm sure I sound kind of odd. And I have some stuff on my head because my wife says that I need to get rid of this cancerous thing on the side of my tumor growing on the side of my noggin. So I have gray paint on there. It's called mud.
I know you're going to cut your head off and survive.
So we're going to see if this works or not.
That's good.
So anyhow, what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit more about whitetails, considering it is whitetail season full bore now. Now, we're not to the rut yet, and that's what we're going to specifically talk about is trying to find that target buck, trying to hone in on a target buck now and before the rut, or if it's imperative that you need to do that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Warren has some housekeeping stuff he's got to go over, and Easton's going to be reading a story that someone sent in for us today. Did you download or print off his pictures?
He has them.
Okay.
Nicholas has them.
Gotcha.
They will be for you guys to see. Okay.
All right, let's do some shout-outs on the Tube U. Jeremy Rupsick said, yep, like I said, David's Wacky Facts are great. He needs to join Warren on the Wacky Facts segment. Although Warren's Wacky Facts are always the best because he definitely is creative and comes up with this. Thanks, Jeremy.
He's so creative, Google helps him.
He says, opening day is upon you, so good luck and shoot straight. Make sure you have more than 3 essential items in the stand with you since I need them all. And yes, patience is a virtue right now. Mature bucks will be moving around in further ranges very soon. Later, guys. Jake Kirk, 7936. He says, it made my day hearing you tell the story of how I found my shed. Keep up the good work, guys. Love the content. Glad it made your day, Jake. It ruined mine. Everybody gets an 80 but me.
Wait. Don't go any further.
Oh, you got another one?
I get them all the time now. This is great.
Here you go. If you know anyone out there or you yourself have picked up an 80-inch shed, please send a picture and a story.
Send these to Warren. These are the ones I found in the ditch.
That's the antlers? Holy crap.
That's your problem. You've been walking.
Yeah.
Should you be driving around?
Uh-huh.
They're both huge, but that freaking
That's freaking funny.
left one.
Oh, I love it, guys. Keep sending me pictures of 80-inch
sending
sheds.
them 80-inch sheds. 80 inches or bigger. We'll take them all in every story you got.
JS Gagnow, he says, I may be biased, but the first 20 minutes in the hunting story was one of your best. All kidding aside, great episode to kick off 2024 with my archery buck down already. Hopefully I can fill your inbox with pics and info on my experiments with all your scents the rest of the season. James Mass, 9060. Great podcast. Hopefully my big buck shows up. He disappeared in September. I've seen him on a piece of public since then, but I'm going to hunt him on the public, just waiting for a good wind and cold front to make a move on him.
Ooh, that's a relative one.
The Redneck Outdoor Channel. Welcome. This is a new one. Warren said he had a farm that needs 20 does taken off of it.
He's volunteering.
1-to-1 or 1-to-2 is generally accepted as a good buck-to-doe ratio. My question is, how do you know how many does to kill? Are you taking a head count on them or inventory through trail cameras, or is it more of an estimate? If so, how do you get an accurate estimate? Curious because we have some ground with a load of does and a few young bucks with very little mature bucks. Mostly timber, so we can't sit on an ag field and count does and bucks, and most does look the same in most cases. I know we need to kill some does, but how do you guys determine how many? Taylor Carney. Oh, from Taylor Carney. Listened to every single episode, started listening when there was just a few episodes. Appreciate you, Taylor. Honestly, it's really more of just an estimate, and we have such an abundance that it's very clear. So, for instance, I'd say our buck-to-doe ratio up there is probably, it's honestly not all
not
that
bad.
whack, but it's probably still 1-to-3.
Population is the issue as a whole.
Yeah, there's just a ton of deer. Like, we have some stands where in the timber, most of the time in Iowa, I'd say a normal, when you have a deer density that's healthy, maybe 10 deer in the timber or something like that. And I've had mornings.
It's a high or low, yeah.
In some of these stands, I've seen 30-plus deer.
And we had, what did we have last year? 16 bucks? 15 or 16 bucks in one sit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And,
I mean, there's
and
just
God knows how many does. I
a
mean,
ton of
it's
deer on this
yeah.
place. And then, too, late season, we do get a pretty good idea, too. And it's not, we've hunted several times with no standing food or anything and still seeing hundreds of deer. So,
Well, that's on that farm, that particular farm. We don't have a lot of good intel. On the other one, which is by my house, we get a little better because the state is actually, as a matter of fact, this is the first year he hasn't been by before hunting season. He usually swings by and tells me what he thinks our numbers are at. And so we get a number, a more I don't know if they're more educated or not. I love the Iowa DNR, but I just don't know how good a number that they get when they count deer. But basically, he tells me that, what they've counted and where we're at and how many does that he feels like. That he lumps us into the sections and says you need to take 100 does out of this section, 50 does out of this section, and so on.
Yep. Which that would obviously probably be the most accurate way to do it. The Chase Productions feels good being first. Michigan season started today, and my target buck just showed up before daylight, headed towards a bedding area yesterday. Good luck to you guys this year. Wish me luck on this cold front, Friday and Saturday. Good luck, buddy. Go get him. William Ayers, SP4TT. Great episode, guys. Patience, everyone. If you did your homework, they will come. Good luck to you guys this fall. Iowa Racks and Birds. He changed it from Iowa Bowhunter. Isn't that what it was?
How do you know it's the same one?
Unless his
you changed
profile
you're looking at his
picture
profile picture.
is exactly the
yeah, maybe
same.
He did.
It's Yoder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Happy opening day. Love the podcast. I'm loving the new Raised Knox and all the tips and strategies from this podcast. Good luck to all you guys this fall. He's talking to all you guys. Eric Robards. What a great opening day. Listening to the Raised Hunting podcast while at work. Wanting to be in the woods, but good luck to everyone this season. And then Into the Birches. I'm traveling 4 hours north to the northern Maine woods in November to hunt bucks I have no prior history with and will enjoy every bit of it. Then Budget Bass Fishing says Indiana got hit with EHD pretty hard. That's a bad word here. Don't say that. And then one real quick on Apple. RJ Vandenberg, he says, best hunting podcast out there. Keep it up. Also have a question. When you guys make your mock scrapes, do you place them in different spots every year? I've had my mock scrape in the same spot the last 2 years and it was getting a lot of attention. But this year, it hasn't been touched hardly at all. Would like to hear your opinion on this. Thanks. Interesting. You guys want to go?
We want to talk about that, or
sure. I think you can answer his question real fast.
Because what's his name again?
You always wait till
Bob.
RJ. I think it was RJ Vandenberg.
I was giving you Bob because that's what Warren did last time. Just answer the question.
So, well, I had something very similar. The scrape that.
Yeah, RJ Vandenberg.
So RJ, the scrape that Juice is a deer that we hunted for several years. And he would come to a particular scrape, and that scrape was on fire. I have a stand there. I've killed some other deer there since. But last year, it just kind of died. It just seemed like the bucks didn't come in there like they normally do. And so this year, I went back and I added a rub tree a little ways away from it. And what?
A little ways away from it? 2 feet does not count.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it is right next to the scrape. Literally, like, within a foot of being in the scrape dirt.
Well, now that
little ways away.
Well, now that you interrupted me, it worked. It seemed to have brought the deer back because I just checked the camera this morning and I've got 3 or 4 bucks that are all hitting. Some are hitting the rub tree and some are on the scrape. So
yeah, him putting the rub tree there is what brought the deer back there.
Well, they weren't
everything
hitting
we
the
tell
scrape.
you guys that our scents are not magic. David believes they are.
Well, I do, and I use them in
conjunction. They simply
conjunction.
got closer to season. Our deer are back. Our deer are moving in. This is normal. This is when we start getting more. Your rub post did not bring all the deer there.
Okay. Well, last year I was having a hard time getting a deer to show up to that scrape, period. Now they're there. Now, and he can say what he wants, but I believe the rub post is part of it and Scrape King is the other part of it because that's what I put on the limbs, and they're going over to that scrape now again where they weren't before.
So the question was, though, that he's had a scrape that's been getting hit in the past 2 years, and now it's not getting hit.
Yes. Don't
Why
give
do
up
we
on
think
it.
That is.
Don't know.
I would ask him,
I don't.
Have you had any rain lately? I've found this year has been the most dramatic effects I've seen on moisture. we always preach like keeping moisture in your scrapes and everything, but I have literally watched some of these scrapes that are doing great when I've dumped water in them or we've had rain, and then give it 2 weeks and now it's all dry and we haven't had rain in a while, and they slow down like no other. But if I go put water in them again, it's like they come back, which is what we've always been saying, but it's just very dramatic ups and downs this year compared to what I've seen in the past. That would be one thing that I would recommend doing. If it's very dry, put some water in it. The other thing I'd recommend doing is seeing if your deer are there still. I have a farm that is identical to what you were saying, where year to year may not have the same. They will do it for multiple years in a row, and then 1 year, there's no deer in that area. And what I've found in that one specifically is crop rotation, depending on what crops are close. And that also will tell me when certain scrapes are going to light up again. Because a lot of times if you go every other year, like the crop rotations are, the one scrape that you did have it on probably gets lit up again.
Yep.
So those would be my two main things, is seeing if something's changed where the deer are at. Maybe you need to adjust or try adding some water to the scrape and refresh all those scents that they've left in there previously.
The other thing keep in mind is not necessarily crop rotation, but the scrape I'm referring to is affected by a crop rotation on a neighbor's property. And this year is corn. And so now that I've got more bucks coming back to this scrape and hitting this rub tree than I had last year, I know it will also pick up once he takes that corn out. So because a bunch of my deer stay up there in that corn until it comes out. Once it comes out, it's like you just got rid of a big chunk of timber. And so a lot more deer will show up.
I would second that as far as the just make sure that your deer is still there. There could anything, maybe something was logged, maybe somebody put a food plot somewhere, or there's different food sources. Just first off, make sure that the deer are there, and then too, that if it's somewhere, maybe you might need to look back, and maybe those deer don't even show up till October, and you're just ahead of it. I've had that before where I'm like, well, this usually is always lit up, and then I go and look, and I was like, oh, well, it was actually another 2.5 weeks from now.
Yep. All right. I'm going to read our story of the day, success story. Don't let me forget about the honorable mention at the end.
Honorable mention.
Yeah, the honorable mention story at the end. But this one is very specific, and this one is pretty freaking cool, and is why, in my opinion, we do everything that we do. So today is from a gentleman named Ben. To be honest with you, in the communications that I've had with him, I'm not sure if he even listens to the podcast. But this is a great story. He sent this in for the cents.
Okay.
He asked where he could send a long story review for the cents. Which would tell me he doesn't listen to the podcast because we talk about it all the time, so I'd bet I am correct. Anyways, old Ben here, he said, "Hello, Raised Sense. I want to thank you for making an awesome product. I just started using your products this year and have seen fantastic results. I started using Buck Junkie and Scrape King in August, about 4 weeks before the opener in Wisconsin. Within the first few days, I started to see bucks show up at the locations we used the products. To my amazement, they stuck around consistently and were getting good trail camera pictures of shooter bucks. About a week prior to opener, I refreshed the locations. It was an amazing early season success with a buck we named G2. He's got bladed G2s. Find the picture here if you're watching. With a kicker on his right side. I've had a trail camera pictures of him, or of this buck, starting in August. He was consistently on our farm and we've been trying to figure out a game plan to target this buck for opener. Due to the high temps, I decided not to go opening weekend, which turned out to be a mistake for me. For the next 4 days in a row, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, he showed up at one of our stand locations daily. Yikes. I was kicking myself for not going, as hunting in 80-plus degree weather is not always that much fun, and typically deer move at night when it's like that. But not this buck. He showed up in daylight all 4 days, both morning and evening.
Jeez.
This, no offense, Ben, is why we say you can't kill them sitting on the couch. Just because the temperature says it's 80, you should be sitting in your stand if it's the right spot and the right wind. So to continue, I was determined to hunt the second weekend and took Friday, September 20th through Tuesday, September 24th off to hunt. The weather forecast was still calling for warmer temps, but there was a cold front in the forecast this Sunday. Eagerly anticipating the weekend, when I checked my cameras on Wednesday and Thursday, he had disappeared and was not on my camera. My heart sunk as I thought I may have missed my opportunity. Friday came around and I was off to Wisconsin to my parents' farm. When it came time to hunt, the wind was out of the west, and it was not good for that stand that I wanted to hunt, and that I knew he was where I knew he was frequenting earlier in the week. So I went to another spot and did see 6 does and a small buck. Overall, it was a successful evening. Saturday morning, got up and planned to get in the stand early as the wind was right. Ended up thunderstorming like no other. So we went back inside. Saturday evening, I thought it was going to be the night. The storm pushed through, and the cold front was coming for Sunday morning. I got into the stand location early and did a 4-hour sit. Around 6 p.m., I had 3 small bucks and a bachelor group around me, eating acorns for almost an hour. That was fun. As soon as they left it, I had about 30 minutes of daylight left. Thought he might come out. He never did. And I was happy about seeing deer, but a little disappointed that he did not show. Fast forward to Sunday evening, the cold front pushed through Sunday morning, and deer were active that morning. Back in the stand, I went around 3 p.m. At 5:15, I had a small 8-pointer under my tree eating acorns. At 5:25, I saw movement in the thicket and started to get ready. As he came closer and got to an opening, I could tell it was G2, one of my target bucks. He came broadside at 28 yards. I pulled up my bow and put the pin right behind the shoulder and squeezed the trigger. In an instant, the bolt made a complete pass-through and stuck in the ground on the other side. He made a jump and took off to the east, up the hill, into the woods, out of sight. I was pumped and called my brothers and dad, and they were back at the farmhouse to come out and help with the recovery. When they got to my stand, I got down from the tree. We went over to find my arrow and to check out where it hit. I looked over in the direction and saw a white belly about 30 yards away. He didn't go very far, and recovery was instant. I finally got my hands on him and was thrilled. He is my biggest bow buck to date. I firmly believe I would not have been able to target and pattern this buck without your products. Thank you, Ben.
Awesome,
Boom.
Ben.
Ah,
yeah.
that is painful, though.
Oh, yeah. 4 days in a row?
Morning and evening.
Yeah, that's...
I guess one thing if, he was there for 4 days, he showed up once here, and then another one at night, and then in the morning. Oh,
Every day.
That sucker teased you like no other.
I don't know that I've ever had a deer do that 4 days in a row, morning and evening, both. Ever.
See, I always say that if you get a deer, no matter what time of the year doing something, if he does it once, it's hard to guess if he's going to do it again. But if you see him do it twice, I'm freaking in there as fast as I possibly can, as long as everything's right, because he's either going to do it once or twice in a row, and you might get another couple times. Like that guy had 4. Otherwise, you're way behind them. If you're waiting to see if they're going to keep doing it, you're already behind. So, but that poor guy.
Yeah, that one's rough.
You can't kill him sitting on the couch, all right? Who cares if it's 80 degrees? Go put your son's sunbathing suit on or whatever you want to do and get a tan on, and then shoot your deer.
Yep. Okay. Ready to get into it?
Onward, donkey.
Yeah. Who's going first, or what? How do you want to approach this?
Well, I think maybe we could approach it. Well, I guess the general question is how would you find a shooter right now, right?
Yeah, and mine to that was at what point do you switch your attitude on hunting? As far as right now, I'm in the mode of I'm playing pretty safe. I've got a deer that I've got a good line on, not 100% on what he's doing right now, but I'm just hunting him with the right winds and when I get a chance. What point in the season are you throwing that out the window? And I'm still going to hunt the right winds and everything and strategically, but I'm going hard in the paint now. I'm not playing safe ball. And then on the flip side of that, what are the odds of finding a buck if you hadn't found one before the season and killing him before the rut?
Okay.
And is it even possible?
Well, okay.
And I think that's a key. But you not throughout the summer. Don't include all that crap. You are from opening day to the rut. You're got to find one.
Yeah, I mean, you could even be saying, what's today, the 3rd?
3rd, yeah, October 3rd.
That you could be getting, especially before cell cams were a thing, that you could be cutting it close already if you don't have one somewhat located on trying to have him find him and kind of have him dialed in on where to kill him in before November 1. Because, I mean, we're really talking only 3.5 weeks.
Yep.
Before cell cams, it's not that big of a deal to go put a camera out and leave it for a week. And so if you go out and you put a camera out and you check in a week and there's nothing on it, you know, that's a whole week that you just burnt of intel.
Yep. And banking on it, putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. So let's play 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, you have the deer.
Yep.
At what point do you get hot and heavy on him?
Yep.
Scenario 2, you've located a deer or two that you'd like to shoot, or meaning have pictures, but you're not really sure where he's at, and he's at night, whatever, right? You know, that got a couple shooters, but they're not daylight, nowhere near daylight. How do I find them? Scenario 3, you do not have a shooter, and you need to find one.
Well, obviously, let's attack number 1. Number 1, in my opinion, is the best one you could have. You've got a good line on a deer. You've been watching them, and your goal is to kill him before the rut kicks in. That, and then when are you switching? Like, if you can't do that, what point are you calling it on the safe ball and going hard? And in my opinion on that one, if I've got everything lined up pretty good, which I think my scenario falls into section 2 a little bit more than 1, but if I have a good line,
yours is definitely a section 1.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he hasn't done anything in the past.
But you got a lot of intel on that deer.
Oh yeah, we know a lot of where he's at. We just don't know what the heck he's doing. He's kind of random with where he's at.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, you hunt him with what you know, not what you predict. Yes, they might, and I could be 100% wrong on this, considering I have not much to back it up with. But I would hunt them safe and hunt them with the information that I've been able to gather from this year, or if you're lucky enough, information from last year could be huge as well. And use that to put yourself in the spots with good winds, and just trust the fact that the deer likes to be there, hopefully, clearly, if you have that much info on him, and not pressure him. And then if I get to the point, like, in my head, I don't want to put a date on it. I think it's going to be more when I'm sitting in a stand and I start seeing some bucks screwing around or starting to pick up their activity, is probably, and I'm thinking it's probably between the 10th and 15th of October is when I'll probably start seeing some of the younger bucks start to do it. But that's when I'm going to be like, okay, if I can't finish it like by the 15th, then now I'm not being patient. Now I'm going to put myself in a position. I'm pulling the saddle out. I'm pulling the stand that I would do a marginal wind sit on or some crap like that to be, we're going for him. Because I'm not going to sit there and wait till after the rut.
Yep.
I mean, I will do that. I've been known to do that, but I'm not intending on doing that.
That's not the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what we're talking about here is like the beginning half of October, especially, or for the guys that are hunting September, is you're hunting 2 different scenarios. One, you're based everything around food for a while. Whether the deer are going to a certain particular place to eat, what are they eating, and is he showing up? You know, is that deer going to bang, or do you have that? And so I don't think that I was sitting here trying to think of a deer that I've even ever had the opportunity to hunt him like that. And we don't hold the food sources, so that hurts us always. That I don't think that I've ever had a deer that I thought on sometime in that first 2 weeks that I had a good chance of killing him.
I think that's why this is rare for us.
Well, but
I think you're of the opinion that he's not that killable right now. I could be wrong, but
I think he's killable. I think you just got to be very careful because you don't have really good intel. One of the biggest things that I don't have going for me is I don't use cell cameras very often. If occasionally I've had one just to keep from going into a place. But honestly, the only reason that I run trail cameras at all, is to know the deer exist. That's all I've ever wanted. I've never wanted to know what time they're there or anything like that, just to know that they exist, because that tells me I'll sit in the stand longer because I know that this deer could come by, and
it doesn't take much to convince you to sit longer. You enjoy sitting longer.
I do. I mean, I do. But at the same time,
that one.
it's sure nice to be able to know that, okay, this deer is out there. I've seen him here, or the camera has seen him here.
What do you do when you don't know if he's there or not?
I probably still sit, because I also know that camera doesn't pick everything up. It's only covering about 15 feet, but I think what we're talking about is if I'm trying to switch now and I'm trying to do the number 2 scenario, I need to find a target buck at this time of year.
Let's just all cover one first.
Okay.
So so what else? Is that all you're doing for one then?
No, I'm saying that right now, if I'm going to, instead of food, I'm switching to scrapes starting now.
Starting right
October 3rd. I mean, and the reason.
What about October 1st?
Well, I'm just saying today. I'm using today as the date.
I didn't know if there's a reason why you.
No,
okay.
I'm saying because I do believe that the most killable time, other than if you have the food source, whether you put it in or whether it's an existing food source, if you don't have that, the most killable time, in my opinion, to kill a really mature deer is going to be. And if I had to stick a date to it, it would probably be the 20th to the 30th or something like that of October. That's when they have the ability. That's when they seem to take on they'll walk around in the daylight hours. They'll hit a scrape and they'll do it with some consistency because they're trying to get ready. They'll answer to rattling antlers and things like that very well. And so that's the window I like, is that 20th to the 30th. And again, it could be the 23rd to the 3rd of November, but I'm talking about pre-rut. That they're not chasing the does hard, trying to breed a doe yet.
I think so. If I'm in scenario 1, I'm hunting from October 1st till October 20th. I'm hunting ultra conservative, unless there is a really good cold front and the wind is pretty well perfect. I still am not going to go hog wild. Like, the wind's got to be really good, and it's got to be a pretty significant cold front during that window. And so if I don't get one, then I'm going to be off a little bit and give them some berth because I don't want to screw them up. October 20th through November 1st, I'm going to be looking at that weather. And I'm going to be looking at the weather, and I'm assuming, since we already have kind of found this deer, that I have prior knowledge of him. And if he's a deer that gets wild during the rut, meaning he goes wherever and disappears for days on end or weeks at a time, then October 20th through the 1st, I'm going ham. I'm doing everything I can to,
because it's a last ditch effort.
Yes, hang sets in different winds for different winds. I'm doing everything I can. Now, let's just say that you're going to have October 20th through the 23rd and it's 75 degrees, and then the 24th through the 31st is supposed to be 55 degrees. I would still be conservative at that point until those days. But otherwise, if it's going to be 70 the whole time and then I know he's going to get wild, I'm going ham. I'm going after him, and I'm trying to get near a scrape. I'm big on, I don't like hunting food really hardly ever. There's one circumstance this year where the access is the only reason that I would change it, and I would hunt food more. But other than that, I'm always timber, bedding, transition. I don't like food. And so that October 20th through the 31st is when I'm getting really aggressive with it, and I'm trying to get him killed. Now, if it's a deer I know that, because some of them during the rut, they'll stay pretty close still. Those ones I don't panic as much. I believe the optimal window, the best possible window to kill a big buck, is the 27th through the 2nd. I think that's the absolute best days that you could have to kill a big deer, in my opinion.
A big deer.
Well, I think it's got to be pretty well a specific big deer, because you're going to have to still be close to where he's at. But I think that the 27th through the 31st, especially with the right weather, he's probably going to hit it during he's going to hit it during daylight. And I say hit it a scrape, or he's going to be up on his feet in his core area. And then the other thing I'm doing is I don't really bounce around stands. If I can, I will sit. If I had the right wind, I would sit the exact same stand from the 20th through the 2nd, because I feel as though if I know he's already hitting a scrape there during the day, he'll do it again at some point. I just have to be there. Where it seems as though if I start bouncing around, and now I'm going to hunt him over here and hunt him over there, yeah, then he's at this one when I'm at that one. And so if I just sit the same one over and over and over and over and over, eventually he does it, as long as I'm not burning it out. So that scenario 1, that's how I'm approaching it.
Fair enough.
Scenario 2?
Scenario 2. Let's go.
What was scenario 2?
Well, I have a question for scenario 1. The
Okay.
other guys, I would think. When you are in one of these situations, for instance, the one we have that we keep referring to, it's hard access. That's I think, in my opinion, the number one barricade to really getting in on that deer really early is access, because you just really don't have many options without putting a lot of pressure. Now, in a scenario for a lot of guys out there, I feel like that you're in the season now, you're doing something that is pertaining to either a buck or the deer in that area, whatever it may be, and you feel as though you need to try to get another camera out there or another stand out there in a different spot or something, what time, daytime, nighttime, or what time do you, in your guys' opinion, is the best time to go be putting a camera in somewhere or to check out another spot that you didn't have a chance to get to or something, without putting a ton of pressure on the land itself or the deer in that area? Do you go in the middle of the day? Do you go evenings when you think that they're going to be out in the fields? Do you go in the middle of the night? Do you do, like, because I know a lot of guys do a lot of crazy things, but what's the least pressure you're going to put on them?
I'm going middle of the day. If I have my choice, I'm going middle of the day.
Even if it's somewhere near like a bedding area?
That's what I was going to say, is it depends on where it's at.
I mean, how close to the bedding area are we talking?
Potentially right on the edge of it in this scenario. Now, granted, I don't know if he is necessarily bedding there all that often, but I know a lot of deer do bed there. And it's been one spot that I've just kind of put it off, that I'm like, I would like to put one there, but I don't really want to go in there. I just kind of want to leave it be. But I think that could be a pretty huge piece of a puzzle if I were to get a picture of him in there, or to see something in there, or see a really big scrape in there or something. That's like, okay, here's something.
And I know he's there?
I don't know he's bedding in that spot, but I know he's in that area, like going to the same field that bedding is next to and stuff.
We've done this. We've done this exact scenario.
Well, I know what you're going to say, but I'm asking for the general guy, because what you're saying is what I already do, and it's great. It's wonderful. What Dad is referring to is you drive in there with a freaking four-wheeler tractor, whatever, leave it running, and do your thing. And that works where we're referring to here, because we're out there a lot. We're doing a lot of things on the land. I do not recommend that to hardly anybody else unless you have a certain setup on your land where you are on it constantly and they're used to it.
Or the farmer is.
No, I still don't recommend it, because I tried that. Holy shit. I tried that. I did that with a farmer that was there all the time and freaking jacked my deer up like no other. So I do not recommend doing that.
I do recommend it. I do recommend.
You've never tried it.
I mean,
only
I do
on your places, though. Like, you've never tried it on a different farm where there's just a farmer going in and out all the time.
That's not true. I killed Brahma by going. I drove my truck in there, took Dan with me. We put up a rub tree, we put up a stand and a blind, and then came back and hunted a day and a half later and killed him.
Still feel as though
That's
there's
in
a
a
controlled
field, though.
situation here.
What's that?
It was in a field, though.
It's very controlled.
That's what I'm saying. But most people, I mean, it depends on where you're hunting and adapting to what. So if the farmer's in and out of there all the time and you drive your truck in there, it's probably not. Leave the truck running, do what you need to do. That's how I check cameras and things like that too. You don't pay any attention to anything. You don't go creeping through the woods looking for scrapes and stuff like that, because
that's what we're referring to having to do, though. That's where and that's what I'm referring to as well. I've tried it where I've tried to leave the truck running and stuff. And when you are on a piece of land that you only have permission on and you can only do so much, you're not driving right into your stand.
I agree.
You don't have the ability to drive in there, so you're walking a couple hundred yards through different things. And that is even in places where the farmer is walking his fence line every other week. So that means he's walking through all the timber and everything. And it's still jacked all the deer up from me doing that. So be careful. Take David's advice if you want. He is smart and he's got his stuff figured out on his land. I'm going off of what I tried doing. I literally tried to. I even did it to the point where I tried to get the deer to get used to me too, and oh boy, did I see zero deer.
I'm not doing it.
You're not going to do it?
I'm going to trust
that he's
myself
there.
as a
Ooh,
as
I
a
like
hunter,
this.
and know that if I already know that he's in the area and I have a rough idea of what he's doing, and I think he's bedding in there, I'm just going to trust that.
Nice.
I don't need to go put a camera in there.
That just made me feel so much better.
Why?
Because I got a feeling about this one corner that I'm like,
It's probably right. That's what
I did
that's
last
all
year.
I did is all I needed was the first picture to know that he made it through I was pretty sure he'd made it, but made it through, and that he was there.
Yeah.
And then once he was there, I already knew from last year where he was going to be roughly, and it was just a matter of hunting there.
See, you're right. I did that with Frayne last year. I didn't kill him, but from the first pictures I got of him was 200, 300, 400 yards away from where I went and just told Joey I got a feeling. Like, I know he's been over here, but we don't have a camera down here and we don't have anything. We're going here, and he was at 4 freaking yards. It worked.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. That's the point of that one.
Well, I think
Because-
you bring up a good point in that sometimes you win even though you don't kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get a deer, especially a big deer, you get them within bow range, you won. You played the chess game, and for all intents purposes, you accomplished what you were after. You put yourself within shooting distance of him. Sometimes things go wrong and you don't get a shot, and that is just sometimes the nature of the beast. So I would still chalk that up as a win. I mean,
it teaches you a lot, too.
absolutely.
And when you do that, sometimes, now that you're saying that, the more I think about it, holy cow, it gives you a confidence boost to keep, like, really tell yourself, trust your gut. You got it.
Especially if it's a deer you have prior history with, they're there.
Yep.
And you got to get to a point where you just take the cameras and you don't worry about it. Like I'm using that, especially on a deer that I have prior history with. All I need is a confirmation that he's there. And then from there, now I'm just going to trust my gut, and I'm going to hunt him however I would hunt just a deer.
Yep.
Just hunting deer at that point.
I'm trying to think I can only think of one deer that I know of. I mean, there's just so many, you have no idea. Has there been a deer that we have run off? I mean, just flat lost him, and we think we did it.
Yeah. Bullwinkle.
That's the only one I can think of.
And Ralph.
I
really,
think
for that same, but the same time, wasn't it?
I
I
don't-
know Bullwinkle did.
I think Bullwinkle, I don't think we ran him off. I think we were just missing him the whole time.
I don't think so.
No, I'm talking about
If you
when
go back
guys,
and-
you got close, and then all you guys went and hunted it.
Well,
Yeah.
what it was on the same day he found 2 hunters. One was not us, one was a neighbor that we talked to who told us that he walked in on him, and he saw you guys or smelled you guys, and he saw or smelled him, and then after that we got no trail camera pictures of him until the next spring.
Which you're saying that he didn't go anywhere; he just hunkered down.
No, I think he was in Bullwinkle Bottom the entire time, and we just didn't know. And the only reason I say that, you could be right. That would be the only deer that I can think of off the top of my head that he might have gone somewhere else. But the reason I don't think that now is if you go to 2018, the next year, when we discovered Bullwinkle Bottom, Dad and I found Bullwinkle Bottom shed hunting. I was like, there's so
Right,
so
why aren't
much
we
sign
hunting
in
this?
here. We need to put a camera in here. Put a camera in there in 2018. We had a whole bunch of summer photos of him. That was the only year that we ever had summer photos of him. And then put a camera in Bullwinkle Bottom for the first time ever. Was there all the time. On the rest of that farm, and I hunted there at least 27 times or something because I shot Thor that year. There was not a single photo of him at Gobbler Knob, not one at the deep cam.
Which Gobbler Knob was a place that he used to frequent.
Only because we saw him there and found a shed there.
Oh, we never got pictures?
No,
Oh.
not a single one. And
I was
then
just gonna say, 'cause
there
I just
is
know I've seen him there.
there was one photo of him like November 19th on a different part of the farm, and it's one antler. That's the only reason I know it's him is because, it's a baseball bat.
Yeah.
And-
I don't remember what year was it he's walking up Swamp Road. He's got that big cluster of stuff growing up. It's velvet.
And, it was that same year.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. If we didn't have, he was in Bullwinkle Bottom all the freaking time. But if you didn't know that, we'd had one picture of him. If you take that camera out of the equation, we'd had, outside of the summer, one photo of him the entire year.
I don't know. I'm just going off of, I want to say we had 5-6 cameras, something like that, always running there, probably as a minimum. And we would have him not consistently on any one camera, but here or there, somewhere, up until we run into him. And then after that day, we didn't have anything during the rest of the hunting season or after the hunting season because you were pretty sure he was dead.
Yeah, I remember.
I mean, and I was like, I don't know. I don't think that he's dead. The reason I didn't think he was dead at that time is because, number one, he was big enough that I thought we would have heard about it. Number two, we knew one of the neighbors, and he didn't kill him, and he didn't know of anyone that had killed him or shot him, and lost a big deer. So there was a lot of things playing into that. That encounter is when it all started, and he disappeared, and then he shows back up that next spring.
Yeah.
Or actually, it was like almost summer because he already had antlers when we saw him. That's how we knew it was him.
Yeah, I mean, could be, or he just went right back to where nobody was messing with him the entire time.
So point is, 12 years of Iowa legendary whitetail bow hunting, and we can think of one buck that we've
run off, possibly run off, and
did
Warren
something to him where we can't see him there,
Ralph,
where we can't find him.
Well, let's
Ralph
just say
definitely
that.
got smart.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ralph got smart.
But he didn't leave.
We have a friend,
but we had some help.
Friend
with
that did that one.
So, but here's what I guess I could say about Bullwinkle. We altered his pattern, if nothing else. We altered what he was doing because he was randomly going by those cameras once in a while, at least during the rut. Now he was like, I don't want to go over there. I've had issues over there,
Yeah, or he's like, I'm going home where I don't get messed with.
Silly
Sure,
goober didn't realize he just narrowed himself down to where he could get shot.
Well, I think if you look at it, that's where I do think that the statement that the older that they get is really compelling.
That they
because if you
narrow
look at
their
him,
movement.
Yeah, if you looked at him when we first started hunting there, we kind of had him kind of all over. Mm-hmm. Then the next year it was only in that one leg of the deep cam. Then the next year it was the deep cam again, but less. Then it was pretty much
one camera
gone. Only at Bullwinkle Bottom.
Yeah,
and then it remained there until I killed him.
I definitely think there's something to that. I think there's also something else though that you got to factor in, and that is when you have a deer like a nomad that travels, they're going to be more susceptible to being killed because they're covering more ground.
Yeah.
They're more likely to walk in front of a hunter at 3 or 4 or 5. So the ones that do make it to 5 and 6, 7, 8 years old, I don't know whether that's causing them to do that or that was kind of their thing all along.
You think Ralph was a traveler?
Ralph seemed to have like a like when he would show up at us, he would stay. And then it seemed like he had a place that he would go and disappear, and I don't think it was on us. I think he was leaving, and whether he was going across the river or something like that, I don't know.
Yeah, because he was very interesting as far as it seemed like when he was there, you'd see him.
He was there
quite a bit, but then when he was gone, he was
gone. AWOL.
Yeah, but that deer also, so that he could be the best example. That's probably one of him and Bullwinkle were probably some of the two deer that had the most pressure on them from us. And they didn't leave, but they got really smart, so they still lived there and they still liked where they lived, but
I wonder
you were going to have a hard time catching them with their pants down.
But also you got to count sometimes, and there's people. Some people are just lucky. A dude walks out the door and gets hit by a truck. Another guy walks out the door and happens to meet up with someone that has multi-million dollars and they want to work out a deal with them. I mean, just you don't know. And my point with that is because...
Or they get hit by a truck that a multimillionaire is driving.
And
they don't get hurt and they want to sue him.
Yeah. Here's my point, though, is that
lottery ticket.
You had a couple situations with Ralph.
Yeah.
Where Ralph just got lucky. Not that he was that smart. The day with our cameraman, Ralph just got lucky.
And when he walked,
when the doe finally came to your stand, and
yes,
okay,
he should have been dead that day.
That's what I'm saying. So Ralph just got luck. So sometimes things just go their way.
Yeah,
and
he also stood at 20 yards for me with no antlers.
Yeah,
which was
he actually
either
got lucky.
very
he
intelligent
got lucky
or
twice
lucky
because now I do believe he's the one that got me kind of stuck on the anti-ladder stands, which I probably go overboard now because I don't think most deer are that problem, but I truly believed after seeing him, I can't remember where it was. It was somewhere where I watched him look at the stand and then follow the ladder right up and
I think
pegged
it was
us.
at Eggshell. I think that's where
it was.
Maybe you saw him over there. I never saw him over there, but I think that's where it was.
And I was like, what the hell? Like this deer, and then then the next morning he busted us again. Like that. And I knew that this deer is super prone. So I was like reached over and just hung my bow up. It was first thing in the morning. Literally see him out of the corner of my eye. And I did the whole, lip to the side of my ear thing because I didn't even want to move. And told him, I said, Ralph.
Oh.
But we already had the GoPro set up.
Yeah.
So, and that's something, boop, runs off. And I'm like, what the frick? And so I'm thinking, of course, the camera guy moved. That's the only possible thing. He's like, no, dude, I swear, I didn't move. Which I could kind of see him out of the corner of my eye. We went back, watched the GoPro footage. He didn't even flinch.
Right.
That's what happened with me and him with the same deer.
Yes, and so
when he looked at us the one time, Dad blamed me. I blamed Dad. We looked at the GoPro video, and both of us are statues.
I should have killed him twice, though. Twice he got really lucky. I don't think he got away with it. The one was at Kill Hill, which was a really sweet spot we've talked about on here before, and I watched him go with a doe down that same road. And the Kill Hill one was bad because it was going right into the core. The wind was, no matter what, it was going right into the core of their bedding area. So Bryce and I pulled it, and then we were going to hang it on the road for that evening. Well, Mom decided that she wanted to go hunting, her and Alyssa. And so I was like, and I can't remember why it was that day, but those two wanted to go hunting. And so I told Bryce, I was like, well, unfortunately for us, I was like, we'll go chase bullwinkle,
Yeah.
So we put the stand and everything there at that tree.
And they saw him, didn't they?
Yes. So I was going to hang it there, and we were going to hunt it that afternoon on the road. And so I just put it all there and left it there, and then we went and hunted bullwinkle, and I put them in eggshell. They see Ralph, and I was like, oh, yeah, where'd he go? And they're like, oh, he wouldn't leave that road. He was down there rubbing a tree. And I'm like, son of a... And so I think we would have killed... I don't think he would have picked us off hanging a stand
brand new
there,
for him.
brand new, yeah.
Unless he's smart enough to be sitting there watching you, like freaking bullwinkle. That sucker would sit on the hill where he could see everything.
Yeah,
all the time.
He got
I watched
smart.
him just bed there and just literally just sit there and watch everything. The only place on that hill that he could see every access.
So there. I mean, in some occasions they just get lucky.
The only good thing about that, though, I somewhat want to bring our educator back and just set him free again and see if we get giant deer again.
Yeah, because then
set him free
no one
again.
can kill him.
Yeah.
Hey, I need some
however,
work on my
I do
truck
think
done.
the one thing I do think that may happen there is if they get really smart, if you can crack the code, they may be more killable than ever.
Because they restrict themselves to one area like Bullwinkle did.
And they only do the same thing, and they're real cautious about it. So you got to figure out how to break the frickin' Da Vinci Code after somebody makes them a scholar.
Yeah.
But then, if you do it,
And
you're going to do it.
Who
So
volunteers
what
to be
we're
the
saying
scholar.
is send
need
your
a spare
send your
farm.
worst hunter
Another
out
t-shirt.
on your property. Let him pound around, climb up in tree stands, and then come in with a ground blind and shoot him.
That's
when they're
not-
looking up in a tree.
That isn't even what the worst part about this one was. We love him. We're not naming him, but oh man, he would cover himself in deer piss and didn't know what the direction. This is why we always talk to guys and say, look, the wind direction is a thing. When it says NW or EW, or it wouldn't say EW, NW or NE on your weather channel, it's out of that direction, not to that direction. He used to think that it was the other way around. So basically, every wind he hunted was blowing right to the deer.
No, that's what he was telling. He told me at first. He's like, I'm telling you, dude, I've figured it out, and it works all the time. And I was like, what's that? He's like, I cover myself in doe piss, and he's like, and then I have the wind blowing right to them. That way, they smell me and they come to me. And I remember him telling me this.
I thought he didn't know.
Hold on, and I was like, how are you getting that to work? Because he'd killed a few deer, and I was like, how are you getting that lucky? And then I told him, well, I said, you better not be doing that at our places. And he's like, dude, trust me, it's fine. It's good, man. And I was like, don't be doing that. And then he's like, and so then I texted him the next time he was going to go hunt because I wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to go sit somewhere.
We were
with
in the
wind
truck when we
opposite.
texted him and said what, because he said he was going up there, and we said, you called him and said, what wind are you, or texted him and said, what wind are you going, what stand are you hunting? Because I immediately said, you can't hunt that stand with that wind.
Yeah, so he was going to go to a stand, and then I remember I said, what direction do you think that's blowing? And he's like, well, it's to the south.
Oh.
And so then I'm like,
So he was flipped.
so
the
it's
whole
like
time,
the
but he was
entire time you've been covering yourself in doe piss, and you've actually been hunting
the
the
right
correct
wind. So he did have him flipped around.
He was so pissed when
Totally
he realized that.
jacked
He's
it
like,
up.
so you're telling me none of these deer came from because of my doe piss?
No.
He's like, there's no way. And I was like, well, dude, if they came from the direction that you thought that wind was blowing, then no, they
I just
couldn't
don't-
even smell you.
He is such a smart human. I don't understand how he doesn't get out in the field and is like,
Feel the wind?
The wind isn't blowing the direction I thought it was supposed to. Oh, boy.
So-
Okay, so scenario number 2, we have determined, I'm not sure besides the fact that it's
Scenario-
hard to bust your deer for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, if you got one doing something where it's pretty consistent, I wouldn't be trying to screw him up. I'd be trying to just leave him alone, let him keep doing the same thing that he's been doing. It's your best odds, in my opinion. If you are found one that's a shooter and he's just not there during the daylight, or you're not really sure where he's at and you're kind of concerned about it, I personally, the earlier the better, in my opinion. I would be pushing in some right now, trying to get some cameras in different places, more in the timber, not on food. And unless I had something like, one of those deals where you got a little tiny patch of timber out in the middle of the field and you're getting pictures there, then yeah, now I might be going to some other field edges, just trying to narrow it down. Where is he coming out of? And then going from there. But I would be trying to do that as soon as I could, opposed to later. That way I don't have to be walking into bedding areas or anything like that when it starts getting good.
Yep.
So that's what I'd be doing.
So let's ask this question, because I think a lot of people will ask this question, and that is, how long does it take, do you feel like, before you feel like you got a pattern that you can move on? So let's just say we're October 3rd right now. We're in scenario 2. We don't have one pegged yet. We don't have a situation that Easton's got where he knows one is. And you're kind of like not worried, in the next 4 or 5 days, week, something like that. I'm hoping one shows up. And he does. Okay, you got now, how many days do you have? How many days do you need to see him consistently before you say, okay, I got an idea on what's going on without a cellular camera?
Do I have prior history with this deer?
Let's say not. I
No,
think most of these
not
guys.
deer, land. Have you hunted that land for a little bit?
Well, I see. I'm of the. No matter where I've hunted in the past, whether it was public, private, or places I had permission on, I spent a lot of time in the summertime there, or I had hunted it the year before.
So you've hunted the same land.
So I had knowledge. I would make myself even if it was a brand new piece of property, unless I didn't get the permission until now, which hopefully.
You missed your calling.
Why?
I want you to know that.
I can't wait to hear this.
You should have been a freaking politician. Because you could have the easiest answers, and it is 10 freaking sentences later, just like old Trump baby up there.
I thought that was
You want to
just
know about
women.
the border? Oh, let me tell you about my sister over here and why I need to make sure she's protected because that border down there.
That's not how he
and
does it. He says, when I was president, it was great. There was a single man that got in. Not one illegal. Now, they've let them all in. They're eating your
There's
cats. They're eating your
billions.
dogs. When I was in, not one. Not one.
That's a horrible.
So,
And then he
anyways,
just
that
keeps
was
going
your
and going.
calling, is
Okay.
to be a politician.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. But my point is that
So
whether-
it shows
you've
up like
hunted it
mid-October.
before.
Yeah, now.
Okay,
A week from now, 5 days. So October 10th.
Okay, so it shows up a week from now, and we have history with the land
Sure, we at least know the property some.
and history with the deer, or not.
No
No
history
history.
with
All
the
I'm
deer.
asking is for land, and if it's land, I don't need more than one.
Okay, I've collected my information.
Okay. What are you doing?
I'm going to,
Shoot him.
and the information is just, he's just shown up, or it's shown up during the day.
No, he's at night. Let's just say it's 30 minutes either before daylight or 30 minutes after. He's close.
Okay. In that case, I'm not going to get real aggressive yet, because I think if he shows up during that time frame, he's probably going to be there or close by for the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's
Okay. Easton?
my opinion.
Well, mine was I just hunt him like I've been doing right now, like hunting safe. And I only need one. I don't need consistent pictures of him. I have pictures of him now, and that tells me unless there's the off chance that I'm in the middle of where he is moving miles to go this time of year from his summer to his fall range, there's a pretty good chance that the one picture I got just told me that he's going to be there for a little bit until he gets distracted with some
But you
women.
but you guys are both saying you would hunt the deer.
Oh,
You would
truck,
actually
yeah.
go and sit somewhere relatively close, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would too. I mean, I got a deer that he's there, but just be smart. Number one is wind.
I know.
This
Yeah, I'm trying
podcast
to
is
think
such a hypocritical thing because a lot of this is like that right there. You got a picture of him. All of us probably know deep down we got a picture of a deer that we have not seen yet. We've hunted this land. He's going to be there. You just got to trust it. But yet we skepticize, and that's what a lot of guys catch themselves doing, including myself, very bad, of overthinking. Trust yourself.
That's why I'm such a good deer hunter, because I'm dumb.
Yeah, because well, it's stupid. Point is, this is all great information, but holy cow.
I think
You just hunt it.
Well, I had a question, but now you kept blabbing your
Sorry.
politician so long that I forgot what I was going to.
All
Oh,
right, hey.
have we ever had a deer that showed up mid-October on us that was a tanker and then was just gone?
Like it came through.
They got killed.
Not killed, like just passed through. Like late November, you'll get those occasional just mega tankers that comes
Yeah.
through and you never see them again. Have we ever had one in October that was like just a super stud and then just gone?
I have to think pretty hard. The couple that I'm thinking of, like last year,
Can tell you
that
I
deer got
haven't.
shot, I believe, and he showed up like last week of October.
I can think of some that were there already and then they leave for the rut, but I can't think of very many that like
Showed up.
just randomly, got a
Passed
photo
through.
of him.
No.
I haven't had that happen.
So that's probably a pretty good indicator. Then, if you get a picture of one during that time frame, he's probably
Pretty good chance
somewhat
he's going to be
local.
staying around, yeah.
Well, and whether I know it's not part of the podcast necessarily, but I believe it, and they might not believe me, or I don't really care, but I do believe that whitetail deer, just like elk, just like other big game animals, have a place that they prefer to breed, meaning like a rutting area that they will show up, and whether it's a particular farm or a block of timber. I had elk on a particular farm. That's or a ranch that you wouldn't see them there until the rut was full bore, and then there was hundreds of them.
On the deer side, though, you think that's like a specific buck has a certain area that he likes to be in, or do you think that's the general population of deer in that area?
I think that that the deer know that either whether it's that they're there because the does are there and that they're going to hang around right there, but where Junior and Juice and
Blade
Hightower and all those guys just stay right there. I believe that. And so sometimes that works in your favor if you happen to own the piece of ground or can hunt the piece of ground where that's at. And sometimes that can work against you when it's right across the road on another piece of ground.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, and then anybody have anything to add to scenario 2?
No.
Scenario 3, you
This
got to
is the
find him.
tough one.
I think this is the easiest one, actually.
Well, it's you have the least to lose on this one.
I think that's what you're nowhere near as cautious, and you're not overthinking because you don't have anything yet.
You're just going to sit.
Well, yeah, or to try and find one. I'm going in if I'm confused, like meaning that there's usually deer here and there's not now, then I'm just going and I'm pounding the pavement. I'm going to go and walk and try and find deer. I'm looking for sign, for beds, fresh rubs, scrapes, anything that's telling me, hey, there's been deer in here, and then I'm moving cameras there. If it's a new place and I don't know, I'm still doing the same thing. And good chance I might bust a big deer, but he's probably going to be back. And so I think that you may even make better decisions because you're not being so overtly cautious about something because you don't know what's there yet. You just got to find them. So, and if I'm telling somebody I want to try to find deer, I'm getting into bedding areas. That's where I'm going into the bedding areas or as close to them as I feel like I can.
I think this opens up opportunity because I think what happens is when you don't have a target buck, and that's honestly how I hunted a lot more of my 40 years, I guess now we're talking about, of bow hunting. Most of it was spent I didn't target a deer. I hunted areas where I was trying to target the quality of deer I was looking for. So if one came by, I was willing to shoot it. It didn't matter which one it was. So I didn't have that honed down, I'm looking for this particular deer. So I think it opens up. And if you're going into that situation, which is where you would be if you don't have something you're looking for, you have an idea in your head of what you would be willing to shoot.
Yeah.
And so
odds are too, if you're it's probably going to take less to get you excited.
For sure.
Because you're going to see something and be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, where if all summer you were looking at this 160-inch deer, that 160-inch deer, and if you got no idea what's there, and then all of a sudden there's a 140-inch deer, you're probably like, ooh, that's a pretty good one, because you had no expectations.
I have a pretty decent example of this, because I would going off what Dad said and what your situation is here, depending on the caliber of deer I'm trying to hunt or trying to find, would determine how I was going to do it. Because if I was just looking for like a good buck or whatever and just going to be happy with, just haven't seen one yet, but I know they're there, I'm not going to probably be going super deep into bedding areas and stuff. I'm going to try to sit back and see where I can see a long ways, whether that's in a field. Fields could be tough because they may not come out during daylight. But if I can go somewhere where there's some more open timber that's near some bedding, things like that, like when you hear guys talk about observation stands, I like to go to places like that where I have opportunities, like shooting does and stuff if I wanted to, but I'm getting intel at the same time. The reason I say that is because we had a spot last year where you filmed Joey shoot his doe. That same stand, early, it was like October 13th or 14th or somewhere in there. Me and him were sitting in that stand, and there was a bunch of bucks, or a bunch of deer in general, but a couple bucks that kept screwing with each other down below us that were fighting pretty early, but they were just doing their screwing around thing where they're not going super hard. But me and him had no deer anticipation on, like, we're looking for this. We were just looking for a 125-inch deer for Joey, Hope and Young. And that was the most deer we had going through in that area. So we're like, most deer, most chance to have one come by. Well, sure enough, behind us, we had a crap load of deer come out in a way that we were not anticipating, but like 140 to 150 plus inch deer shows up with massive eye guards that I'm looking at this freaking thing. He's like, that looks like a really good deer. Like, I don't want to get your hopes up, but that looks like a really good deer. And I look around, I'm like, holy crap, Joey, that is a big deer. We need to get that sucker in here. And never saw him ever before, never saw him ever again. Saw him the one sit that one time, and he came to like 60 yards just feeding by us or whatever, and never got a shot. But that was a great example of, we had no idea it was there. We were in a more open area, and something happened to show up. It was definitely luck because we never saw him again. Never got a picture of him again. Never even got a picture of him.
I think your first deer ever was that way. If you remember the first deer that you shot, then we had a gorgeous 12.
Yeah, right after at 36 yards.
Yeah, that was like probably 160s. And I think we had a camera in there. I don't think we ever saw that deer, did we?
No.
Again?
Our cameras back then didn't work very good.
Yeah.
So we would have a picture of this, because remember, we had some pictures of deer that were big, that we never saw.
I still have one of those cameras that got Magnum that was working 15 years later, whatever it was.
It was the only one. Cause
it was my most reliable camera.
I would say,
I wish we could go back to that, because then the next year when we had different cameras, all of a sudden we had so many more shooters.
Because I would say we were getting like 40% of our pictures.
Yeah, probably.
It was bad.
Oh, I remember you go to most of them and it didn't work.
We didn't work. This camera didn't work. Didn't take a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very frustrating.
But that would be my thing, is I'd be trying to just get eyes on a lot of deer. Because at a minimum, what that's going to tell me is I'm going to see where does are coming out, or bucks are going in or out of, or I'm not seeing very many bucks. I'm just seeing big numbers. And that would help me when I get into the rut if I, worst case scenario, couldn't find one to shoot.
I think that works until you hit a certain size threshold.
That's why I was asking about size, because I think if you're going to be looking for a big, mature deer that is, I don't like to stereotype them, but that is not what I'm going to be doing if I'm looking for a 160, 70, or bigger, like solid buck that is not immature. I'm not going to sit in the wide open waiting for him.
Well, you just got to locate them.
Yeah.
I think if I had to just basically describe a strategy, because like I said, I've done this, it would take a few trail cameras, a tree stand or a ground blind, and my bow, and a few days off, and I would be sitting and hunting one spot, and then I would have trail cameras, and I would build mock scrapes I would probably diversify. I'm hoping I have 4 cameras, 2 that I put on scrapes I make, 2 that I try to find scrapes that already exist, and then or maybe I even put one just on a trail that I think is going in or out of a food area or something like that to diversify what I'm looking for. And then I'm the 5th camera. I'm actually hunting. And so hopefully I can dial something in the next 4 or 5 days. Because that's when I lived in Montana and I would come hunt Iowa, we only had a week to figure out what we were doing. We would typically have 6-7 days. And Kurt and I killed 2 really good bucks. The guy that we were hunting on his property, he gave us some intel. He said, these bucks are here. He just showed us the trail camera. He didn't say where they came from, just said they're here. And we said, okay. And then we went to work. And I think I killed mine on the 2nd day, and I think Kurt killed his on the 3rd day. So you just have to do.
Looking back now, in my opinion, that's like really impressive. I remember when Dad would go to Iowa, and if he didn't come back with a booner, I never said it to Dad, but I was kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah, what'd you go for?
Yeah, like, what are you shooting these deer for? And they were great deer, like 150-inch deer, but I just remember.
Well, the first one wasn't. The first one was like 120-inch deer, but I was impatient, and I didn't want to wait for the points. And I met a guy that lived in the northwest corner of Iowa, and I just was like, Iowa's Iowa, man. And so I could go there with no points. And I was like, and we traded. I traded him an antelope hunt for a whitetail hunt. I came down, hunted with him. I didn't see I'm not saying that northwest Iowa doesn't have that caliber of deer, but it doesn't have the same caliber of deer is what the southeast does.
I'll report back on that later.
Were booner.
Do what?
I said I'll report back on that comment later.
That's what my expectations were, but that was because I was seeing all the
TV
Real
stuff.
Tree and everybody, So.
Yeah.
All right.
What?
While he's doing that, I have a game for me and you.
A game?
It's not a game.
Boy, I can't wait to hear this.
Not a game, but it's a new segment we could do.
Okay.
For every once in a while. We need to do our deer season update or report. Number 1. What are the deer doing right now? Just like the Farmer's Almanac, they get all their updates.
Well, some of them are taking dirt naps.
I wish.
Well, I can conclude
Dad
that.
shot Guffle.
Yeah. So
maybe
we didn't mention at the beginning of the podcast. Number 1, the products that we have: our scents, our Knox, our K9 line. All of that is available, and we've got new apparel back in stock. So.
Whoa, we have new apparel. Some of it is in stock. Not everything is in stock yet.
Okay. He's not.
But maybe by the time you guys are hearing this, it could be.
So anyhow, there's that. There's also a little competition that goes on here every year when we come into shooting does, and I'm just saying that he's losing. So that's all there is to it. It's 2-0 right now, and which was shocking to me because they were 2 different deer, meaning like you looked at them and it was like, wow, that one's going to weigh 15, 20 pounds more. And they were 6 pounds apart. One was 99 and the other one was 105.
I set a record for this year. I think I'm not kidding. The more I thought about it, I'm pretty sure I've only missed one opening day since I was 12 years old. And I'm pretty sure out of those opening days, I have never been skunked. Now, I didn't get skunked the entire day, the second half of the day.
But that morning.
Saw a lot of deer. But in the morning, not even nothing. Like, the best we had was a squirrel came on my branch right next to me.
Well, the thing is, the spot you're hunting, you wouldn't see 25 or 30 deer typically. However, the spot Aaron and I were hunting, you should be seeing 25 or 30, and we saw 3.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't a good movement morning.
But that was my thing. I was like, wow. I wasn't mad about it, but I was very surprised.
So what is the game or whatever you're wanting us to update?
I was going to say what the rut report. What is your rut prediction mainly? Because everybody's already going to be talking like, oh, it's going to be late this year, or it's going to be early, or they're going to go nuts.
I'm going to say the same thing I say every year. It's going to be exactly the same time because these deer have to breed at a certain time of year in order for their fawns to be born at a certain time of year. That is why I believe that the deer in Montana, the rut is actually later, even though it gets colder there. But the rut was really good in the 24th, 22nd through the 25th or 26th in Montana. And that is because those deer have to have those fawns later. Otherwise, they have them too early and then they freeze to death. So the rut's going to be at the same time. I don't think that there's a lot of – I think sometimes we get really big on, oh, my gosh, it's done this or it's doing that. The weather's done this to us. And I think a lot of times we just missed them, or you just happen to be hunting the morning that the deer you're looking for is in lockdown, or he's locked down with a doe and he's over underneath Easton's stand. Easton's seeing him, as opposed to I'm sitting there and here he comes chasing a doe and here comes 6 other bucks all following along. Man, what a day I just had.
I will say I am hoping if I can't get a chance at old Gump Baby earlier in the year, I am praying for an excessively hot rut
to come to the water trough.
Because after last year, I have never seen something like that, where they are coming to water when it's a really hot day and they're all running around trying to find does. The amount of deer that went to one freaking spot for water was unreal to me.
Well, Quad came, so Nick and I were sitting in a spot, and if you remember how dry it was last year, he went over to the water trough, which I had not been keeping, and there's nothing in it, and you could hear him over there clanking. He was over there for 3 or 4 minutes trying to, like, bleed water out of this thing. He's like, click, clank, 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 clank.
Like scraping at it or something.
Yeah, then finally he gave up. He's like, there's no water in it. And he came walking right back by us. He walked by us at 6 yards.
Clearly he was trying to only go in there for water.
Yeah, that's the only thing that was there is 100%.
We watched some does do that the other night already, that they came out and they were walking out, and then you just watched 2 or 3 of them did it, didn't they? Came walking right over to the water, got a drink, then went right back to where they're going.
But I mean, I'm not plugging I'm going to plug Grizzly not because of any particular reason other than they have built a water trough that's big enough to hold enough water that it doesn't go dry.
And a plus is if you need to move it. I just did this the other day on my own. I pulled the plug on it, let all the water drain out, put the plug back in, and I picked it up myself and threw it in the back of the mule. And it's 380 quarts or whatever?
Well, the big cooler is 450, and
yeah, it has not lost any water.
Yeah, it'll overfill that.
Yeah.
So it's not quite that big, but it's way bigger than what we had put in before.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty legit.
It is.
I'm becoming a big fan of water for hunting.
And just so everyone that's questioning, water's legal in all 50 states. I've already looked because I was looking at some other stuff. And so just like where baiting is not legal, but water is legal to you. You can hunt over water that you put in all 50 states.
We ready? Attacked from the sky.
Oh, boy.
By a snake and a hawk.
Who?
Peggy Jones got the shock of her life in August 2023 when she was doing yard work on her property in Texas. All of a sudden, she saw something fall from the sky and hit her arm. As the object wrapped around her arm, she realized it was a snake. Jones screamed for her husband and began shaking her arm to remove the approximately 4.5-foot-long snake. This only angered the creature, who tightened its grip and began striking at her face, hitting her glasses. The situation got even stranger in a matter of seconds when a brown and white hawk swooped down from overhead and joined the fray. The hawk had been flying overhead with the snake
and dropped
its meal in its talons and had inadvertently dropped it. It had now returned to claim its dinner.
That was also trying to claim its dinner.
As the hawk attempted to grab the snake, its talons scratched Jones' arm, lifting it into the air. Eventually, the bird managed to uncoil the snake and fly off with it, leaving Jones slashed, punctured, and bruised. Her husband didn't see the attack, but soon heard his wife screaming and came to her aid, finding her arm covered in blood. He drove her to the hospital, but through her hysterics, it took her several minutes to explain the story so that he fully understood the unbelievable tale. When she arrived at the hospital, it was determined that the majority of the wounds were from the hawk, and she did not appear to have been bitten by the snake. She was successfully treated with antibiotics and wound care, though she has suffered mental effects from the attack, especially since she was previously bitten by a venomous snake 2 years prior.
Oh, my gosh, this woman.
Yeah.
Woo, that guy needs to get out of that marriage right away.
She is.
He is bound to get bit by a snake.
There's a law, I think it's in the law of power.
I'll give you a good one on
called
that.
Avoid the Unhappy and the Unlucky.
Yeah.
She is unlucky.
I will agree with Nick. That was.
I would nickname her Medusa.
Oh. That was a.
It'd be pretty fitting, though.
Yes.
If Joey's keeping any statistics here, I'm going to go with this because it wasn't a fact.
That is a
But
fact.
I'm going to go with this because I was very intrigued listening to that.
It's a fact because she was attacked.
That ain't a fact, Jack.
It's a
It
story.
is.
It's a story.
Well, here's another one.
And it's also a tale.
Croc. No, these are facts.
You said in there, they listed it as a tale.
No,
they
the
said-
snake's tail.
Yeah. No.
Croc, not snakes on a plane. Samuel L. Jackson popularized snakes on a plane, but what about crocodiles on a plane? In 2010, a small passenger plane crashed in Africa as a result of a smuggled crocodile. A passenger had hidden a crocodile in their carry-on bag, and it escaped. The passengers panicked, getting out of their seats and rushing to the other side of the plane. Due to the small size of the plane, it was thrown off balance, and the pilots were unable to regain control. The resulting crash would result in the death of the two pilots and 18 passengers, with one passenger surviving to tell the story. Though the crocodile didn't actually attack, its simple presence was enough to cause a panic that led to the death of 20 people.
That's terrifying.
Who the hell has a croc?
Well,
Africans.
we're
And
probably
taking it
talking
on a
about this
passenger
big.
plane.
Honestly.
I mean, they got it.
Still.
Well, we know somebody who had an alligator.
Yeah, was it Curtis
Crocodiles are
on that plane?
freaking-
Actually, no, I think it was a croc.
No, it was not.
No, it was an alligator.
An alligator?
You do no crocs.
But come on,
I
like,
just talked to
where's
Marty
the
today.
idea of I'm going to stick it in the carry-on for the flight?
Yeah. Uh-huh. That made sense.
I just talked to Marty because he was over in Brazil, peacock bass fishing.
Yeah.
And they went out one night looking for caiman, the big croc. Those are bigger than. And
I thought they were smaller.
They
No.
are small.
well,
Caimans
they may
are
be-
little guys.
No,
Yeah, I just went over this in Florida.
they may not be bigger, but they have a longer snout. Is what I'm getting, and I think they're more aggressive, is what they're known for.
But they're little.
They're not little.
They're like that big.
I don't think so. Let's look it up. I think they get about the same size as a normal crocodile.
Huh? Are bigger than gators.
All right. Look.
Caimans are the smallest, or one of the smallest ones.
What do you put in caiman crocodile?
How big is a caiman crocodile compared to other croc things? Yeah, but there's caiman crocodile mixes. Yeah, there is. I just discussed this with somebody in Florida, that there is mixes.
Height and size. 15 feet. 4.5 meters.
For a croc.
No, I'm under caiman. They have the CAIMANS. Are caimans aggressive? The largest of these species is the black caiman, a potentially dangerous animal attaining a maximum length of about 4.5 meters or 15 feet. The other species normally attain length of about 1.2 to 2.1 meters, with a maximum of about 2.7 meters.
I stand corrected.
I thought it was the little ones too,
Well,
but obviously not.
what in the world? We have a little land crocodile. Oh, Dad. What are you doing?
15 feet, huh?
All right, let's get out of here.
Yep.
All right, I was just seeing if there was more. Are caiman? Hold on. Are they aggressive? Spectacled and especially the black caiman are associated with most predatory attacks on humans seen in South America.
That would say yes.
The others rarely cause serious accident, and sporadic attacks are mainly on fishermen and generally occur in situations in which the animals were provoked or defending their nests. One thing Marty did tell me, that they have lots of piranhas where he was fishing, and yet the guide, Shannon, got hooked on something.
Jumped in.
And so they were trying to catch catfish. So we're talking about a hook and a weight, right? And instead of like Marty was like, we'll just break it, and the dude was like, no, I get it. And he swam down the line and down to whatever it was and got it unhooked. Marty was like, not happening. And they're like, oh, piranhas won't get you unless you're bleeding. Whatever.
I have heard that.
Are
though.
they as deadly? Like, I feel like it's been from
I'm sure the
movies and
movies
stuff.
have
They
made it
make it
worse.
out like that they are way more dangerous than they really are.
I can't answer that. Although I know Marty said he wasn't getting in the water because they did catch a couple.
What kind of catfish were they catching?
I guess they have different kinds over in Brazil.
Well, I'm wondering, you ever seen those videos where they throw the top waters and then they catch those
those
gargantuan catfish?
Yeah, I know.
No,
What
I
you're
haven't
I
talking
think it's
seen-
called a whale's catfish. Or something. It's unbelievable. Like they're
about.
like
They can move quick.
7-foot catfish. I mean, and they hit
And
the
they
tops of these things.
well-
It's freaking what?
Well, he said that the only way that they were fishing for these peacock bass was topwater. They all hit topwater. And so
that'd be
you catch a
awesome.
20-pound bass
On top
on
water.
topwater. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
He's going back. He was so intrigued that he's going back in like 2 weeks.
That'd be awesome. Here, I'll
So-
find you one of these.
All
In
right.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He's not coming hunting because he's going back to Brazil.
You're supposed to come here hunting,
He was supposed to. But
and he's going to Brazil instead.
yeah.
You're kidding me.
No,
to
he
go
just
catch a
told-
fish.
Yes.
Oh, Marty.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Unlike Marty, we are going to be in a tree. We are not going to be fishing for peacock bass or anything else. So I appreciate you guys. Again, if you're looking for scents, knocks, apparel, or the canine whole line, raisedhunting.com. Go to the website, follow all the links to get you what you need. Other than that, this is the Raised Hunting Crew signing off. And next time we see you, we will be farther in the lead.
Don't put your bets on that.